If you even thought an imaginative thought, you felt shame and you felt guilty.
Nazis and communists all wrapped up in one.
And like literally there was thought policing that went on the home. For example, the things that were, things were gathered up. There were books, movies, CDs, toys, decorations. I remember the singing flower that danced.
It's not enough to throw it away, you have to burn it.
Yes.
Bonfire.
Everything was thrown into a big pot. Everything goes in, we burn it, and we're singing hymns. Yay! The ground has been taken back. And like, the really disturbing part was actually this. The other thing that I would classify as sexual harassment is since there was only one bathroom, we were never allowed to lock the door when we went to the bathroom. If we were in the shower, anyone could come in. And there's not much space to move in, but we would frequently be in there like 5 girls at a time. Like that seemed okay. Like one person on the toilet, one in the shower, one doing laundry, one ironing,
weird having
one
someone in the bathroom
doing
while
makeup.
you're on the toilet.
It was normal. That was normal, but it was really weird when the boys were allowed in.
That's so wrong.
Because the rule was you were not allowed to lock the bathroom door.
So you have to be modest so that you don't cause your brothers to stumble, but they can be in the bathroom with you while you're naked.
Yeah, but Dad would come in while us girls were in the shower.
That's so messed up.
And he would go to the bathroom while we were in the shower. Just don't look. And then vice versa. He'd be in the shower. He didn't lock the door. And us girls would go in. And I know that at least one sibling saw him naked. And they felt shame for it. Yeah, there was no privacy whatsoever. And we were not allowed to have any. We would fight a lot as siblings. And one of the reasons we would fight a lot was because there was constant comparison between us siblings. The parents would pit us against each other. Why can't you be as diligent as this one? Why can't you be as perfect in this area as this one? Why can't you be as organized as this one? You're not as pretty as that one. Sorry, no one's as pretty as Haley. It's not like, it's really stupid. And one of the reasons why I was called the prettiest was because I looked a lot like Mom. And she was
the standard.
She was the standard. So there was a lot of jealousy. There was a lot of bickering. And obviously all of us had been traumatized and we're getting on each other's nerves because we're in a very tiny house. And in the wintertime, we couldn't really go outside a whole lot because it was snowing, we were cold and all that. So before Mom could figure something out, she would threaten that one of us siblings would have to die because our fighting was so bad. And that was the only way that we would learn to love each other. And then when that didn't work, which resulted in all of us having nightmares of different siblings dying. Like some of the nightmares I had, I still remember because they were so vivid. But when that failed to fix the sibling relationships, and so she devolved even further and said that she would have to die. Your mother's going to have to die. And specifically, I remember her saying, God will just have to take me out and then finally you will love each other. When you're looking at my on my casket, maybe you'll learn to love each other. Ironically, though, she wrote an article for the Above Rubies magazine called Squashing Sibling Squabbles. Because she found the magic solution, which was basically to force us to be with the person we were mad at until we were no longer mad. So there was no correct conflict resolution taught.
Like that thing that parents do, that they make the kids share a t-shirt or something.
I wish it was only sharing a t-shirt. That would have been, it was a little more humiliating than that. Her theory was you don't separate the siblings. They need to be together to work it out. Sometimes children need to cool off. No. And I'm like, she was really risking a lot because some of the things that she gave us to do to each other, we could really cause some serious harm. So we were forced to hold hands. You had to hold hands the entire time. And I think the only time we were allowed to let go is if one of us had to go to the bathroom. But you had to hold that person's hand until you were done being mad. And
wouldn't you just pretend to be done being mad? So
eventually, we just learned to coexist. But you were made to wash each other's feet or fix each other's hair. And if those didn't work, and if we were getting to the end of the day and she was running out of time, basically the final punishment and the most humiliating one was if you weren't giving in and it was almost bedtime, you had to feed each other dinner. And I remember thinking, I could stab my sibling in the eye right now. I'm so mad at you and I hate you for this. Because you're forcing me to feed I'm like 10 years old and you're forcing my younger sibling to feed me my dinner in front of everyone else. That was really humiliating.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really
cruel and unusual punishment.
Cruel and unusual. So, yeah, I think this is where I put in the definition for mental mistreatment or emotional abuse, which is deliberately causing mental or emotional pain. There was a lot of that going on. And examples include intimidation, coercion, ridiculing, harassment, treating an adult like a child. Yep. Isolating an adult from family, friends, or regular activity. Yep. Use of silence to control behavior and yelling or swearing, which results in mental distress. Oh, yeah, we were swore at. I still remember Dad, like, there was one time him and Mom were in their bedroom. This is before the upstairs was remodeled. So our only bedroom was the living room, which their door was right there. He come flying out of there in a rage and just let loose, like just angry, just yelling at us. I can't even remember what he said because I was just like, wow, your voice is really loud. And then we ran out of the house because we were like, okay, I can't take this anymore. So then around 2006, some of the siblings were experiencing extreme sleepwalking behaviors and night terrors. Waking up, they would wake up screaming, just bloody murder, and then have no memory of it. Or they would sit up and just start talking to you and go back to sleep. You'd have complete conversations, have no idea what they did, which is terrifying. And like they tried to escape the house.
Isn't sleepwalking normal?
Not this extensive.
Okay.
A lot of times it's a result of trauma. So in a desperate attempt to figure out what the heck is going on, they looked at ATI for help. And the explanation was that we have given ground to Satan and we need to take it back. We have allowed things into the home that we need to clean out. We need to clear out the home, like the Israelites cleared out the yeast in their home. We have to clean it all out. We have to sweep it all out. And they basically said that anything that and Mom she said she was very clear. You weren't allowed to impose on anyone else's decisions. You weren't allowed to make the decisions for you. But the decisions were kind of already made for us. And you were guilted into things.
That's how
that's where you get spiritual abuse.
That's again, another common pattern through all this is like they'll say one thing, but the reality was different from what they said.
So yeah, I think this is where I can include the spiritual abuse because sometimes also called religious abuse or spiritual violence. It's hard to define. People may have been spiritually abused for years without recognizing the abuse, or they're simply not sure where the line between abuse and not abuse is, particularly when it hasn't been physical. On the most basic levels, spiritual abuse uses faith, religion, or beliefs to exert control. Spiritually abused. One example of control and religious abuse is with the purity culture, which we were really heavily into, where modesty and abstinence are revered as the gold standard for spiritual sexuality. And then purity culture and similar issues such as enduring domestic violence under the guise of following scriptural commands are all forms of spiritual abuse and can lead to developing religious trauma syndrome. And that's from choosing therapy. So as a result of this, we were told to round up anything that we had pretended wasn't real, anything we'd used our imaginations on. It was like the thought policing was a huge thing. Like if you even thought an imaginative thought, you felt shame and you felt guilty.
Nazis and communists all wrapped up in one.
And like literally there was thought policing that went on the home. For example, the things that were, things were gathered up. There were books, movies, CDs, toys, decorations. I remember the singing flower that danced. It was battery powered. But that was considered
Flowers
demonic.
Don't sing in real life.
Daisy, da 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 da. It's a nice little happy flower, and it got thrown in the burn pile because it wasn't real.
It's not enough to throw it away; you have to burn it.
Yes,
the bonfire.
Everything was thrown into a big pile. Meanwhile, I'm not kidding. They cleaned out storage. They went through their storage containers to make sure they got everything. All right, so we grew up poor. This was probably not stated, but yeah, we were very poor. And we had very little, especially as like possessions as kids and toys as kids. And one thing that I really liked collecting were glass dolls. I have no idea why. I think I connected it to me. They were like porcelain, fragile, and they represented an innocence that I never had, but they always ended up broken. And I was like more comfortable with a broken doll than a whole one, which I think is kind of significant. But anyway, so I had named my dolls. I had put makeup on my dolls by using a marker to change the color of their lipsticks. I put dark eyebrows on all of them and red lipstick on all of my dolls. It didn't matter what their hair color actually was. And but I pretended, I was like, well, this is where legalism really came into play. It was like, well, I guess I used my imagination to come up with a story between the dolls, so I guess they have to go. So I threw all of my dolls that I had bought for myself at like garage sales and thrift stores. Like these weren't like gifts. They were things that I had bought myself.
How old are you at this time?
2006. I'm 11 years old. I did get permission to share the story of the younger sibling who was 9 at the time. And she held on to a special bear. She didn't throw it in the fire at first. So everything goes in, we burn it, and we're singing hymns.
Nice.
Singing hymns. We're like, yay, the ground has been taken back. And like the really disturbing part was actually the singing flower as it is melting and it's going, this still haunts me to this day. It was
like out of a horror
It was
movie.
going, Daisy, Daisy, get it. Like that's the way it sounded. And Mom was like, that was demonic. Mom said that was demonic.
Satan was
She's
probably
like,
happy.
yeah, we're all cheering. Meanwhile,
It's got you distracted with objects. You know the enemy is already in the camp, which is themselves.
This went so far as to, if you even pretended.
It's not what goes into a man that defiles him, it's what comes out.
We were not allowed to sing the, where is Thumpkin? Where is Thumpkin? Here I am. Here I am. How are you today, sir? How are you today, sir? Okay. That was not allowed. Your thumbs are not real. They're not people. That's using your imagination.
My thumbs
that
are
can
real.
lead.
They are real.
They're not real people, though.
They're not people.
You're pretending that they're people.
They are real, though. They do exist.
Pretending they're people. So after that, we didn't really have any toys. I remember playing with sticks, thinking, well, okay. So then the one sibling who held off putting their bear in the fire, and they were the ones dealing with the night terrors the most. And they were consumed by guilt and started screaming, thinking there was a demon present. Mm-hmm. And so they quickly handed the bear over. Meanwhile, this bear is something that they're deeply attached to. Mm-hmm. They talk to it. They pretend that it comforts them.
It basically was their mother.
Yes, it could be their comfort. Maybe it would get big and protect them from all the bad stuff. But it got burned. And all of that has left severe scars on every single sibling.
To this day.
To this day. We still distinctly remember. That is the one thing we do remember.
Yeah, it's still talked about.
I think we told you about it. We're like, oh yeah, we burned all our stuff. And it was like, the burn pile.
That was one of the first things you told me about. I was very disturbed.
You were very disturbed. So, and I know a sibling, when they got a job outside of the home, which they were female, and that was a little shocking. They started telling their coworkers about this, and Mom instantly told them to shut it down. They're like, please stop telling people. And then their coworkers were like, it's
the right thing to do. Why are you ashamed? It's the right thing to do.
They're
why
like,
are you
people
ashamed?
won't understand. They won't understand. I'm like, yeah, no one should have to understand. That was psychological torture, okay? So moving on, there was that. I don't remember exact dates when this took place, but there were a couple events that took place up at ATI headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana. And since we were an ATI family, we got to go. And it was an exciting thing. But one of the rules was you were never allowed to take your shoes off. You could not be barefoot. You could not wear flip-flops. You could not have open-toed Peep shoes? No
This is
showing your feet.
At a
Socks.
big headquarters building. Lots of people.
Main headquarters in ATI in Indianapolis, Indiana. Headquarters. Okay.
Jeez.
Where leadership, Bill Gothard worked there.
This isn't a small outfit. There's a lot of people
No. There were a lot of
going.
people coming and going. Okay. I'm a little girl. I remember because I wore tights and I hated tights. But I was told that mom and dad made it very, very clear. They were it was like drilled into you. Do not take your shoes off. You cannot take your shoes off because, and we were told this as little children.
Oh my gosh.
One of the guys had a foot fetish. I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was that caused that guy a problem. So I'm forced to be made aware of this because some other guy in the building has a problem with it. And it's my responsibility as a little girl to carry that. So I'm made aware of grown men's sexual issues as a child.
Your whole household was very sexualized.
It was. I go into that. I'm coming. We're in there. We're at this section. We're coming to the really good stuff. So all throughout my childhood, there was a heavy emphasis on girls, specifically girls, not being a stumbling block for other men. The passage they use was Romans 14.
What about the boys with their alluring calves?
They were less of a problem.
Okay.
Girls weren't expected to lust after boys, not in that way. That was more like emotional purity for girls.
What was the point of the whole wearing pants and not shorts then?
I don't know who that was for.
Ceremonial modesty? Sign of solidarity with the girls?
I don't know. So the passage they use in Romans 14 is, instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of a brother or sister. That's Romans 14. Okay, Romans 14, the context of that is just standards, not sin issues. Paul goes out of his way to declare this has nothing to do with sin. None of you are sinning. These are just standards. And if one person wants to eat meat and you don't eat meat, that's not a problem.
So basically what your family was doing all the time, especially with me and other people, saying like, oh, you can't listen to rock music. That's an extra stumbling block they were putting in front of me that I didn't think was sinful, and they're trying to make me think listening to rock music is sinful.
Yeah, but we weren't putting stumbling blocks because we weren't dressing.
Ironically, they were guilty of that all the day long.
Yes.
But they thought they were, with their modesty standards, keeping that.
Yes.
So they fundamentally just did not know the Bible.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And they
Their
just
religion,
accepted this teaching.
Religion was not based on the Bible. It just used the Bible to proof text
it was a
their
weapon.
own false
It
religion.
was a freaking weapon. So if a boy or a man even, okay, lusted after a girl, and even so went so far as to either harass, molest, or rape her, and the girl wasn't dressed modestly, she was at fault too. You were a stumbling block, so now you're guilty of his lusting, molesting, and raping. It's your fault.
Men are just animals.
Kind of. It was, yeah. We got this idea that every man lusted, and that's just how it is. And they can't control it.
So yeah,
we're in charge of controlling it.
There's
So
animals that can't control their actions.
So my earliest memory of learning about the Proverbs 7 woman was in 2007. I'm 11 years old.
Again, sexualizing, like so much.
Sexualizing everything.
The whole household was so sexualized.
It wasn't just my household. I was at another ATI family's
house.
Which is
so crazy when, like, dating was so off limits. Like, so, like.
No, you didn't date. That wasn't allowed.
So, like, the good forms of relationships and sexuality was so taboo. But the illicit kind, the harmful kind, was talked about all the time.
Oh yeah. So we're at while the house is being remodeled in 2007, we stayed for a week at another family's house. And the father was leading the devotions, and we happened to be reading Proverbs 7. I'm 11 years old at this time. And they came across the verse, I think it's Proverbs 7:3. For the lips of an adulterous woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword. And then they were told, girls, you're not allowed to wear lip gloss. You are not allowed to have glossy lips.
That's what that means.
I don't know what happened if we ate fried chicken. So I don't know. Greasy lips there. I don't know. So you were also called a Proverbs 7 woman. That was code for you're being a harlot right now. You're dressing like a harlot. You're behaving like a prostitute. And girls on the street that we would see, Dad would point them out. Oh, that's a harlot. She's okay. We're children.
I've overheard one of your siblings calling one of your other siblings a harlot.
Just for wearing a lot of makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was called that.
I chewed that sibling out. I'm like, don't you dare say that to your sister. No. That's not how you talk to your sister.
But see, that was the culture. Women were
their
demeaned.
Mom was standing right there, silent, doing nothing.
No.
Like, why am I the one having to tell her child this?
No. Because boys were allowed, no matter, the brothers and the father were allowed to say those sexual harassment of the girls was allowed by brothers and fathers. Mm-hmm. It was allowed. Yep. There was a lot of that. And I have many instances of this going on. So there was a lot of over-sexualization. When we put the socks together, matching the socks, we called it mating. Well, you got to find his mate. He's got to have a mate.
Weird.
Let's mate the socks.
Never heard anyone call him that.
If you removed the paper from crayons, that was referred to as taking off their clothes, and you've left the crayons naked. And my mom still defends this saying to this day because I was like, Mom, please don't say that in front of my kids. That's sexualization, and we're not doing that in front of my kids. And she's like, what is so wrong with saying taking off their clothes? I'm like,
but they're the ones with the crazy modesty standards.
But so here's the thing.
The contradiction breaks my brain.
So one of the reasons why, like, being naked and found naked was a sin in our house.
Exactly. Not only was it a sin, but it meant people had a right to attack you.
Not only that. They believed that the Old Testament law of uncovering someone's nakedness, because KJV and everyone's stupid, meant if you saw that person naked, you were sinning.
So how does she not make that connection? But nakedness is so evil and wrong and opens you up to attack.
Take off the crayons clothes.
But yet taking off the crayon, you can talk about.
The crayons are naked now. Talking about nakedness. But yeah, you're right. Also, vulnerability you didn't want to expose.
Also, what's wrong with taking the paper off the crayon? What if you want to color off the side and get shading?
Because they had weird restrictive rules. Don't take the paper off the crayons. You're destroying the crayons. So.
You're literally not.
The following year, spring of 2008, okay, I've already had a lot of sexual talk. Okay, negative sexual talk. But despite all that, I didn't know what was coming. I'm 12 years old. Spring, I'm a few months from turning 13, and my body readies for puberty.
Mm-hmm. That's 1 year before the last year your dad beat you and had that awkward moment.
Yes. So I'm completely unaware, unprepared, and I'm unable to ask questions. Like, you don't ask questions. Mm-hmm. But I remember specifically sitting in the garden. I'm weeding when I get the sudden urge to masturbate. And I'm like, oh, no, what did I do? I somehow brought it back. Because I was like, I wasn't supposed to do that as a kid. And I was like terrified, and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell anyone because I was like, if I tell someone, I'm going to get beat. Right? That's what's going to happen. Like the severe beating that happened, that's going to happen all over again. And I'm like, I got these urges, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. I'm like, well, okay. I connected the dots that maybe if I don't involve other people this time, I'll be okay. So I know everybody talks about like raging hormones of teenage boys, but your girl had raging hormones. Like I was a very, very horny teenager girl. But I couldn't talk about it to anyone, and I thought I was sinful. I thought I was a shameful creature for having normal teenager hormones. It was never explained that I would feel any of that. Never. Not once was that explained to me. And I didn't really talk about it because I thought I was going to get beat if I said I was doing anything of that nature. But I was like, I don't know how to stop. Like, I'm a teenager. I can't help it. So it wasn't until almost a year later that my period actually began. And I thought I was dying, and I had done something to myself because I woke up with blood in my underwear, and I'm like, I've masturbated myself, and I'm dying. I must have cancer. That's what I did to myself.
Right, because you didn't know what a period was, or that you were going to have one.
No, I didn't know what a period was. I had been told that I would be getting the talk, and it was supposed to be a special thing. And like the oldest one She got
Again, the
it.
oldest one that always was treated special.
Taken into the bedroom, and she got a tea party. And so that was my expectation. Oh, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. She was abused as well.
Mm-hmm.
She had her own abuses. I'm not sure what all happened, but she was abused too. But she was favored above the rest because, like I said, she was a firstborn and they took priority. Anyway, I'm so terrified that fear supersedes the fear of letting mom know and what I'd been doing. I didn't even get a chance to explain to her that part. I just said, Mom, I woke up with blood in my underwear. And her response is, I think she was cooking. She barely looked at me. She's like, welcome to womanhood.
Jeez.
I'm like, okay, so this is normal? She's like, yeah, it's fine. So then I get a 5-minute talk on the couch.
So crass.
With other people around. Okay. This conversation is taking place with other siblings walking in and out of the room, talking about, puberty, basically. The vaguest terms possible.
Mm-hmm.
Eggs here. I'm not even told that there's fallopian tubes involved. I'm not told that there's ovaries involved. Your ovaries and then the eggs here drops down. The sperm isn't there. Then the egg gets taken out with the lining of your uterus, and that comes out in the blood and you bleed. That's basically all I was told. Not really much else. And it was not explained to me that my moodiness was normal, because I started experiencing really bad depression. And that's when I started having thoughts of running away. And I started journaling because I was like, I can't talk to anybody. Obviously, talking is not an option. So I had a diary.
Didn't your mom read all your journals?
I'm pretty sure she did. Even though she swore she didn't, but I'm pretty sure she did. At least I know other siblings we read each other's diaries. So anyway, because of my moodiness, the siblings think I'm not saved. So I then, say the prayer again, because I'm like, I heard different versions of the salvation prayer over the years, and added those in just in case I missed something. Like, oh, we knew you weren't saved because you were in a bad mood. Meanwhile, I'm just having normal hormones. So another thing that was really weird was tampons were taboo. You were not allowed to use tampons, only maxi pads, because it was framed that because you were inserting something into your vagina, you were basically taking your own virginity.
So it's okay to get raped, but it's not okay to use tampons.
Which that's not even how you get raped, is by inserting a tampon. That has nothing to do with it.
No, that does not take your virginity. My gosh. That's so ignorant and stupid.
We look down on other families who use tampons. Like, they were very secretive about the fact that they used tampons. It was ridiculous. So sex ed was actually openly frowned upon in our house. Like, I remember...
It was intentionally avoided.
It was intentionally avoided and seen as a good thing. It was seen as a good thing that we were so uneducated in the sex department. Like, that was a badge of honor. We took pride in some of the weirdest things, stupidest things. I remember being at a homeschool convention, and this one we were running a booth, and this poor family came up, and they were like, "Do you guys have any sex ed materials?" And I was like, "Oh, no. No." And they're like, "Okay, we'll go check Becca." I'm like, "Oh, Becca has those materials? Ooh."
To rethink of Becca.
And I remember telling Mom, she's like, oh. I was like, okay, so I had the right response, I guess. So, of course, it was sometime after all this when Dad stops beating me because I'm too old, because I'm a woman now. And I take in these very confusing feelings about womanhood, because I feel dirty now, and confused and guilty.
Being a woman is bad.
For my own body. And then my body's developing, which is awkward enough. But now that I'm looking more like a woman, I'm getting even more talks about modesty. We're told that immodesty will cause other men to stumble in sin, including our dad and brothers. And there are standards to uphold. You must never show a bra strap. Other girls would come up to you and tuck your bra strap in just to make sure you were safe. I remember taking safety pins to pin my bra strap so I wouldn't have to have the worry about them coming loose, just because I wanted to run around. Your slips, we wore a lot of slips, could not be visible. If your slip was showing, your slip is showing. You need to pull your dress down, pull your slip up, go fix it. Your dresses and your skirts must always be at least 3 inches below the knee. No V-necks. So no V-necks pointing down to your breasts, no V patterns pointing up at your chest, down at your vagina, or up at your vagina. So nothing that points at these points. You can only have things that we're told Everything.
So the patterns on the clothes really weren't
Patterns.
important.
Patterns of the clothes, the shapes of the clothes, only rounded or squared necks. And the higher, like we got away with this by layering clothes. I wore so many stinking layers.
Oh, man.
Like I'd have a shirt. I'm like, oh, but this goes with this. But if I lean over, you had to do the modesty check is what it was. And you would have to bend over and ask someone, can you see my breasts down my shirt? And if you could, you need a tank top on underneath that. And the one time I didn't, this girl.
Can you look at my breasts and tell me if people can look at my breasts?
I was playing a game and there were a couple of boys off across the table. We were playing Dutch Blitz. And this one girl crossed the table and pushed me up. And she's like, your shirt is showing everything. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was 13 years old at the time and I was so embarrassed. So yes, everything must draw attention to the face. Just the face, because that's where we smile and show the glory of God. And we can sing the joy and the praises of God.
Technically, we're not supposed to draw attention to ourselves. Period.
See, that was the conundrum. Yeah. So no one can see your legs. You're not allowed to wear pants. The only time I was allowed to wear pants was I got away with overalls for cleaning out the chicken coop or doing wood. And even when we did wood, more often than not, we just wore pants under our skirts. Another thing was we always had to stand in the sun to verify if you needed a slip, because if someone could see the outline of your legs, God forbid that be visible, should you accidentally step into the sun and someone be looking. Legitimately, that was a concern. So that essentially made you afraid of the light. Literally.
Stay in the dark.
No actual tank tops. We're not allowed to wear any form of tank tops, so you cannot show your shoulders. Silk fabric. Okay, now we're getting into actual fabrics.
Jeez.
That's bedroom apparel.
Who told you that?
This was a conversation held by Michael Johnson's wife when I'm only 8 years old.
8 years old?
I'm 8 years old. I specifically remember this conversation taking place in the Blue House, and she's like, girls, she had a bunch of us in a circle.
Jeez.
Girls, silk is for the bedroom. Only the bedroom. And so when we would wear nice, dressy silk shirts later on, we're like, those were the standards. So nothing tight or form-fitting. Nothing tight or form-fitting whatsoever. In fact, that was a no-no. Loose clothing is best. Lots and lots of jean skirts. And like I said, I wore layers of clothing to guard against immodesty. And then if that wasn't bad enough, all these, standards here, we didn't always do this because it was really weird. And I think my dad was uncomfortable with this, but a few times we were supposed to stand in front of dad and ask him to check our outfit to see if there was anything immodest about it. Like, is my dad, is it honest enough? I remember coming downstairs before going to church, turning around in a circle. I felt so uncomfortable. But here's where the sexual harassment really came into play. And I have hesitated labeling anything that my dad did as sexual, but there's no other way to describe what happened and the way I took it, and the terror that I lived in because of this. And I'm not the only one who's felt this way. Other siblings have confirmed that they felt this same kind of attitude from dad, and we were all majorly uncomfortable with him. Mm-hmm. So sexual harassment is a behavior characterized by the making of unwelcome and inappropriate sexual remarks or physical advances. That's just basicdictionary.com. So dad made a lot of comments on us girls' bodies, developing bodies. You're too fat, your hips are too big, your boobs are really big. Constant comments about boobs. That's what he would call them. Not even just breasts, boobs. And I don't know, it was the way he said it was really weird. And
like demeaning or?
Kind of. It's almost used like a slang, like, I don't know. But he talked about other women's boobs with us, like made comments about them. Jeez. And there was just...
Yeah, if that was done in the workplace, that guy would get fired.
That's sexual harassment.
At the very least, would be fired immediately.
I was told, why can't you be as narrow as that when your hips are too big? I just have regular... You've seen pictures of me as a teenager. Mm-hmm. There was nothing wrong with my hips.
Women are supposed to have wider hips than men.
Yeah, because it's for childbirth.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like weird. It's like he wanted you to look like men.
Yeah, it was like he was really uncomfortable with the female form. Like really feminine female form. And I was naturally really feminine. I always have been. Mm-hmm. And Yeah. So then something that happened when I was about 14 was, this was a frequent thing Dad would do with his teenage daughters. He would wrestle another one, like physical, actually wrestling, like see who could take the other one down. Like,
Jeez,
that's the kind of things that he would do with his daughter. He pinned me down on the couch and would tickle me. This happened a lot. I cannot tell you how many times this happened, but he would
against your
hold
will.
against my will. We would tell him to stop. He'd hold your feet and he'd just tickle your feet. We weren't even laughing at this point. We were just like, will you please stop? Begging him to stop. Or he would get on top of us and pin us down and tickle our sides. Okay.
Jeez.
I'm 14 years old. The last time he does this, he was tickling my feet and I fought back and accidentally kicked him in the face and kicked his glasses off. And I'm like, I told him, you deserve that. I'm not apologizing for that. Because it was like he was expecting an apology for me kicking him in the face. And I'm like,
You're basically defending yourself and fighting off an attacker.
I am not apologizing for that. So then another thing that happened around this time, it only happened once and I don't know why it happened. But Dad called, he was laying down in his bedroom and he called me in there and told me to lay down on the bed with him. And he insisted I lay with my back against his front. So my bottom is literally pressed up against his front. We're that close. And he wraps his arm around my waist, like we're in a cuddling position. And I'm fighting the urge to run. Like I am majorly uncomfortable, but I'm paralyzed because I can't get up until Dad says, because I must obey.
Because you've been groomed.
I've been groomed.
Your parents were groomers.
I must be obedient. So I'm like frozen, hating every second of this. I don't even know what he wanted. He wanted to talk about our relationship. Like, I want your heart, that kind of language. And then he's like, oh, this is really nice. I really enjoy this. And he's like, the door's open, so it's fine. I'm like, why are you mentioning the door open?
Right.
That's really freaking weird.
So he was sexualizing the situation.
He made a big deal about it. And as soon as he let go, I don't even know the rest of the conversation. I don't know, but I remember running out of there and just like hyperventilating basically because I was really terrified. Given my history, makes total sense, but he didn't know my complete history. But still, right. A father should never do that to his daughter.
Well, he was the one that was making it weird. He was the one that was making it sexual by saying you have to be in this position and hey, the door's open, so it's okay.
And I think he was trying to reclaim, like I remember cuddling like that with him when I was really, really little. And he was like, you're a wiggle worm. You need to stop squirming. Would you just stop squirming? And he was holding me. I didn't want to lay there on the couch with him, but he made me as a 3-year-old. So I still remember that. So I went to bed that night terrified. And that's when I began sleeping with my back to the wall because I was afraid that my dad would come to my bed after that. And I didn't know what he would do. I also had no sex education, so I didn't know how I could get pregnant. And I was afraid my dad was going to get me pregnant. Like legitimately. And I stressed and worried. Like if my period was a few days late, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. Like I would shake hands with a boy at church. And I'm like, if my period was late, I was like, oh no, I got me pregnant. Like, oh, and it's not like I could say anything to anyone because like, if you might be pregnant, what have you been doing? Shame on you. Like obviously shame on me because it's all my fault. And so I never did end up pregnant, but I forever was terrified that Dad was going to come into my bed. And I was massively uncomfortable with him for the rest. Even when he visited, he frequently put his hand on my thigh and I felt uncomfortable with him. Like if I accidentally had any like accidental cleavage showing or anything, it was like he was distracted by it and I knew it. And it weirded me out as an adult woman. Like, all of my siblings have confirmed the same thing. I don't know what it is with the grabbing the thigh, but he's done it to you.
He does it to me. I don't like it.
I don't like, and it's like a really firm, like.
Yeah, it hurts, actually.
It hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
It really hurts. So the other thing he would do was
he'll like grab your arm really hard or hit you.
Yeah, he was really, really aggressive. So I don't know if it was just he just didn't understand his strength or what. So anyway, something else he would do with all the girls, he would flick our behinds with towels. We'd be standing doing the dishes and we'd tell him to stop and we didn't like it and he would laugh and do it anyway.
And you were teenagers at this point?
Yes, we were teenage young adult women. So, this went on until we were out of the house.
That's sexual harassment.
And he also did it with the tip of the belt. And then he would smirk when we would wince in pain. He thought it was funny.
He seemed to like causing pain.
We would tell him to stop and he wouldn't. And he would do it again after we told him to stop. The other thing he would do is he would jab his finger. We would be standing doing the dishes. Okay, got our hands in soapy water. He would come by. He never knew when it would happen because he didn't do it every time. But he would use his thick finger and just jab it into your side. And that really hurt. And we were like, can you please stop? Never did.
He was literally
He was kind of a bully. It was a bully.
Bullying and harassing his own daughters.
I did actually cover that under, that's why I said he's a sadist.
Mm-hmm.
He was a sadist. So the other thing that I would classify as sexual harassment is since there was only one bathroom, we were never allowed to lock the door when we went to the bathroom. The only one who was allowed was the oldest.
This always bothered me so much.
If we were in the shower, anyone could come in. Okay, we only have a flimsy shower curtain. Okay, it's not sheer or anything. There's coverage, but anyone can peek in at any time. Anyone can do anything to you.
Bathroom.
It's a really small bathroom. You have your dryer, your washer, your toilet, your sink, your shower, and bathtub. And there's not much space to move in, but we would frequently be in there like 5 girls at a time. Like that seemed okay. Like one person on the toilet, one in the shower, one doing laundry, one ironing,
weird having
one
someone in the bathroom
doing
while
makeup.
you're on the toilet.
It was normal. That was normal, but it was really weird when the boys were allowed in.
That's so wrong.
Because the rule was you were not allowed to lock the bathroom door.
We call it Grand Central Station.
It's not easy. There are fireworks, there are explosions.
If you want a shower or a bath with nobody in the bathroom, take it at 3 a.m. in the morning.
You have to be modest so that you don't cause your brothers to stumble, but they can be in the bathroom with you while you're naked.
Yeah, and there was often times where people would dump cups of cold water on you when you were in the shower, so that someone saw you naked. Jeez. I was terrified of that all the time. I did it once, and I was like, I probably shouldn't do that again. But Dad would come in while us girls were in the shower. That's so
messed up.
And he would go to the bathroom while we were in the shower. Just don't look. And then vice versa. He'd be in the shower. He didn't lock the door. And us girls would go in. And I know that at least one sibling saw him naked on accident. And they felt shame for it. But yeah, there was no privacy whatsoever. And we were not allowed to have any. Our bedroom didn't have a lock. There was no lock. There was no door to our bedroom. Anyone could come up the stairs at any time.
Yeah, it was just a big open attic space.
Yeah, when we finally got it remodeled.
There were no walls or doors or anything. It was just one big open area.
And that wasn't remodeled until 2010. So we were downstairs in the back bedroom for 3 years before that was remodeled. So anyway. But yeah, so this is where... Yeah, the sadism. A sadist is a person who takes pleasure in inflicting pain, punishment, or humiliation on others. That's from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. So there's a few things that stand out. There might be others, but these are just the ones that I remember. We were canning tomatoes, and the one thing we had to have was a big cooler full of ice. And it was used to cool off the tomatoes once they'd been boiled so we could take the skins off so that we could can them more easily. And he dared me and another sibling to see who could put their hands in the ice water the longest. Whoever could withstand the ice water the longest got $5. Mm-hmm. You can actually cause damage to your system, like your nerves. You can cause damage to your body by keeping them in cold water. And that's very painful. Mm-hmm. And he thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm. Which, taken in isolation, you could say, oh, it's just someone who's having a prank or something, but all the different examples.
There was other challenges that he would
do. Together.
He was like, how much hot sauce can you take? And when we would choke or gag or throw up or had severe diarrhea because of it, he would laugh. Mm-hmm. I think I won the hot sauce challenge though, but we were conditioned.
See, I wouldn't laugh at that. That was happening to my daughters.
We were conditioned to be okay with hot sauce because anytime we said bad words, we got hot peppers on our tongue. And then when that failed to work, because we developed a taste for hot things, hot sauce, essentially, they used vinegar. So another thing that Dad really enjoyed doing was humiliating Mom in public. He would constantly do things to embarrass her or his kids and would laugh at her embarrassment. And he also did this to me as an adult woman when I was married. Mm-hmm. We went to, I think it was Home Depot, and
I didn't like that when I heard about that.
That's the thing. He only did it when you weren't present.
Mm-hmm.
He never did anything like that to me when you were there. And I was like, good luck trying. I didn't realize, I was like, that's weird that you're trying to do this to me, but I've seen you do this to Mom, and I'm just going to be like, you can't embarrass me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember specifically what he was doing. He was like yelling out in public or saying, oh, by the way, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, good luck.
What a jerk.
Kind of a jerk. Yeah, a jerk. The other thing he enjoyed doing was torturing animals. And so we had this family dog for like a long time, and it protected us kids, and it didn't like Dad. It did not like him.
Dogs know.
And Dad would have us kids line up in the yard, and then Dad would pretend like he was trying to harm us, to cause physical harm to us. And the dog Teddy would run up and down the line of us kids, barking and snarling at Dad, trying to, like, the dog was not playing.
Mm-hmm.
Dad was playing, but the dog wasn't. And like, I'm like, that dog knows something.
Mm-hmm.
Animals know.
Mm-hmm. He knows,
especially dogs.
The dog
they know
that he was
who to protect you from.
Mm-hmm.
And he enjoyed doing that.
Mm-hmm.
He got such a kick out of antagonizing Teddy, the poor family dog who was just trying to do his job and protect us kids from our father, which is really strange.
Why would you enjoy that?
I also remember him like kicking animals. He was really mean to animals too.
Shot a lot of animals.
He shot instead of just chopping the head off, he decided to use a .22 gun, and we put like 20 bullets in it, and
shot a dog
that belonged to
dog.
Mom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He shot a lot of animals, actually. I mean, he shot the horse to put it out of its misery, but there was another option, but we didn't have the money for the vet bill.
There was a lot of animal abuse.
There was a lot of animal abuse. There was a lot of animal abuse.
Are you going to talk about the chickens?
Also, another thing, like, since everything is my fault.
He was definitely not saved in 1997.
No.
You can't be doing all this stuff and be saved.
You cannot be doing all this stuff and be saved. I'm sorry. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way. There's no freaking way.
But Michael Johnson still insists.
Yeah, he insists to this day. Oh my gosh. No. Okay, so another like example of other people's behaviors being my fault when I had nothing to do with this was the 13-year-old neighborhood boy had a crush on me. My parents found out about it. And the boy's still allowed on the property. Okay? Mm-hmm. He's still allowed to come over. I'm not allowed to leave the house when he's there. In fact, if the neighbor boy comes over, I'm locked inside. And if I go outside, I get in trouble.
Literal Rapunzel.
Yes, literal Rapunzel. But it's my fault. Somehow it's my fault. And there was one time he was on the property. I didn't know he was. And I freaked out, put the sheet over my head. And he's like, who's under here? Because, of course, he had a crush on me. And he was trying to touch my face. And I accidentally slapped him. And I felt really bad. But I was like, shouldn't have been touching my face. So then I remember there was another boy who had a crush on me. And I was supposed to go help at some dinner. I think it was 14 this time. And because that boy was going to be there, that family didn't want me there. And Mom and Dad didn't want me there. And I'm like, I get punished. It's not my fault. What did I do? Mm-hmm. So it was like that and the whole like crushes thing was not clearly explained, or it was not explained at all. A more disturbing example of this was, I think I was 14 or 15 years old. So one of my siblings' birthday party, the father of my sibling's friend is in our home, who was known in the church to have at least a lusting and a porn problem. And I don't know what other problems he had. But I was wearing a tight shirt because I'm a developing teenager. And so I'm rapidly growing out of my clothes.
You guys don't have a lot of clothes.
And we don't have a lot of clothes. Most of my clothes came from hand-me-downs. Like other people would be like, hey, we're getting rid of these clothes. See if there's anything here that your kids can use. I remember praying that God would provide us with clothes and shoes. And then I remember like, oh, bags of clothes. God answered the prayer because we got new clothes now. So I didn't realize how tight my shirt was. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not aware. And I remember Mom isolating, like I'm in the kitchen and there's a huge, like several people. There's at least 30 people in the house. And she corners me in the kitchen. She's like, you need to go change your shirt right now. Your shirt is way too tight and that man is here and you're not allowed. You really need to go change your shirt. And I'm like, okay. And I'm starting to feel shame. Like it's my fault. Okay. So I go change my shirt and then I come down with a different shirt. Nope, too tight. Go back up there. I changed my shirt 3 times and then the third shirt is still too tight. And I remember sitting down on my bed crying and thinking, I'm just not going to go back down there anymore because I've run out of shirts to wear. Like, this is the last shirt. And she's like, I guess I'll have to do.
It's awful.
The problem is, why were they allowing someone who might have a problem with a 14-year-old girl wearing a tight shirt?
Yeah, that's what you call it.
That's borderline predatory behavior. I'm to blame and made to be responsible. Because if I'm immodest and something happens, it's my fault. Meanwhile,
that's
I'm just
grooming. It's grooming.
So that was, again, we've talked about this. My parents taking us around like unsafe people. And like there was actual 7 total offenders that occurred. And this isn't all of the people who just made us uncomfortable. Like we expressed like, I don't want to hug this relative because it feels like they're groping me.
So 7 total people outside your immediate family that were offenders.
No. Oh, immediate family. No, it was 15. No, the 17 total offenders, I think, was the everybody who's done something. Inside and outside the family.
Right. Okay.
So those are people who actually, to our knowledge, have actually done something.
Okay.
There were others who just made us feel unsafe or touched us excessively and we didn't like it. Grown men, older men, relatives. And it's like, that's just how that person is. It's fine. Even though my dad's sister told him that her daughter had been groped and molested felt up by that specific relative. It didn't matter. Who cares? He likes to give hugs. He's just a really lovable guy. He's just really handsy. That's what it was. He's just super handsy. That's all it is. And there were other times when we told mom and dad that this guy made us really uncomfortable and he'd been a former drug addict. He went to a local church and we were shamed. That man has a beautiful testimony. But then we later found out that he molested a sibling in the church nursery. So
even in the church.
Not Landmark. It was a church that we were singing at.
It was in a church building.
But yeah, it was in a church building. And we'd already told our parent, like they didn't listen to us when we told them we felt uncomfortable around anyone. So it was like, it was ignored. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if it bothered us at all. Suck it up. So I'm also 15 years old. This is when I start wearing makeup. I'm at a homeschool convention and I somehow according to mom, I attract the attention of a 30-year-old guy who's engaged. So she thought this was weird. I don't know if this actually happened. My mom inflated a lot of stuff. She really blew stories out of proportion. But according to her, he wasn't interested in me until I opened my mouth and he realized I was a lot younger than I was. And then she proceeded to shame me for attracting a 30-year-old man and told me you need to stop wearing makeup. So again, my fault for attracting an older man. And then she told this story in front of a close family friend. And I was like, I want to die right now. Oh yeah. Back
just to again, restate, like your mom and your parents, like your siblings, none of them deny any of this.
No.
Your mom still insists that she and your dad didn't cause any of you guys weren't abused by them. They didn't cause any of the abuse, but they won't deny any of these things happen. They just don't see them as abuse.
No. So then the older, we got as teens, like we started wanting to wear like, other like nail polish or lipstick or, clip-on earrings. But obviously lip gloss wasn't allowed. And I think I got deemed a slut. My siblings refer to me as a slut. I found this out later for wearing leopard print heels.
Wow.
They actually used the term slut.
These are supposed to be Christians.
Because I wore leopard print heels. They didn't say it to my face, but I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like, I really liked those shoes. It was like my favorite pair of heels.
I don't think that makes you
leopard print.
I really don't know the definition of words.
It was like prints, patterns, and fabrics were sexualized. Clearly sexualized. It's really stupid. So there was a lot of argument about whether or not we were allowed to wear nail polish or lipstick. And Dad's big thing with nail polish is, why do you want to draw attention to your hands? Like, that's what harlots do. They're always waving that.
How does he know so much about harlots?
I don't know. I mean, he slept around a lot, so maybe that has something to do with it. But he made it sexual. And we're like, I just want colors on my fingernails. That's all it is to me. So it was going to be a no until Grandma Lois gave us a huge bag of pinks and purples. There was one green, but we had to throw it away. Nail polish. And it was like, okay, well, because your nails naturally kind of are pink and purple, you can wear pink and purple nail polish. That was the only reason it was allowed. So then, obviously, I ended up wearing lipstick. But Dad made a big fuss about the lipstick, too. But I was like, I don't care. I like lipstick, and I enjoy the color on my lips. So get over it. And then we were allowed to wear clip-on earrings. We weren't supposed to make holes in our ears. And eventually we did, but Dad's argument was, why do you want to look like a Christmas tree? And then he's like, well, his biggest complaint was, don't wear the big giant hoops like this person at our church. So
okay.
I don't know why big hoops were a no-no, but big hoops were a no-no for the longest time. And you had to wait until you were 18 to get your ears pierced. So then you must always another weird thing that my parents had was, if you did any wrongdoing, you had to confess it to Mom and Dad. Always. And we were guilt-ridden until we did. And then even after we confessed, we were still feeling guilty. And because it was under the guise of, we must know what's going on under our roof, and we want to know how to help you. But a lot of the things that we confessed to them were like sexual stuff by nature, which is super weird. I mean, obviously parents should know that that's going on in their homes, but like, I don't know. It was just, we didn't feel like even just confessing our sins to God was enough. We had to confess our parents to help with a clear conscience, to keep your conscience clear. Because if your conscience wasn't clear, then you couldn't hear God. And that was ATI. I still remember the talks about that, like keeping your conscience clear. And if you have a, searing conscience, if you have a dead conscience, that means, oh no, you might not be saved. Or, if you don't feel guilty for something, then that means you might not be saved. Or you've deadened your conscience and you can no longer hear God. There was a lot of manipulation, a lot of guilt, and a lot of lying.